Today I'm talking about the 15mm f1.4 APS-C lens for your Sony cameras. Now a little while ago Sony came out with a group of prime lenses for your APS-C cameras. Now I'm a little late to the game with this lens and I apologize, but once I finally got the lens I wanted to give it a good test before making a video. Now this isn't going to be really a review video. I'm just going to talk about some of the things I really like about this lens and some of the things I think they could improve on. Let's get into it. I've had the Sony 15mm lens for about 2 months now, and I've given it a pretty good test. I use it a lot in my outdoor channel, and I also use it a lot with family videos and other freelance videos that I've used. It works really well on a gimbal, which I'll talk about a little bit later. I also have the Sigma 16mm lens, and that's been my go-to prime lens for my APS-C camera. Right now I'm filming on the Sony a6400. I might be upgrading soon, but so far I'm still loving this camera. It gives me exactly what I want, and it's a small form factor, lightweight, fantastic. Which, with this lens, it's also pretty small and lightweight and has a small form factor. So that is great. It does everything I need. So in another video, I'm going to compare the 15mm from Sony with the Sigma 16 and see how they compare price-wise, quality-wise, all that kind of stuff. I should mention price-wise, right now, the Sony is available in Canada for around $950, a little bit cheaper in the States, of course. But this lens right now, $950, for me, that's probably on one of the negatives. It's kind of more expensive than I would normally pay for a lens like this, especially a prime lens. It does a great job. For me, I already have the Sigma 16, and that one's only, under 500, I believe, Canadian. So, you gotta take the good with the bad. Normally, I would love to have all Sony lenses. I do enjoy Sigma lenses, but there's just something about having a Sony lens on your Sony camera that I think really, really works well. Some people might ask, why did I pick up this lens when I already have a very similar lens in the Sigma 16? I just wanted to give it a try and see if it's something that I would prefer over the 16. I can always sell one of them later, which probably is going to be the case, but at this point I haven't decided. When I have taken this camera out on my outdoor channel videos, I do a lot of camping videos, it's been great. I've been able to use it in the canoe on the boat, which gives you that depth of field look you kind of like when you're on a canoe. I will say you do need to be very careful when you're shooting on a canoe. I have my tripod kind of strapped down with the camera, and it's not the easiest thing. Most people, when they're shooting outdoor videos, just use a GoPro or something similar. I have my DJI action cameras. I sometimes use those. But there's something about using a better camera and much better lens out on the boat that gives you that nice depth of field that you're looking for. And this camera here, as you can see in the videos here, it gives you that. It is a wide at 15, which is cropped in with APS-C, so you're getting a little bit less wide, I guess, but it is still wide. 15mm is still a wide lens, but for me, I need to control the camera and the lens while sitting in the canoe or sitting in the boat. So I need something that's close enough and it's going to give me the shot I want. So this 15mm, really did come in handy on certain conditions. I think for me, it did a really good job, and I was never close to damaging it or the camera because it is lightweight. It is a small form factor, so it is easy to use and also easy to get in and out of the canoe with, which is very important. So you have a bigger lens in there, you're going to have more chances of it getting damaged or going into the water. Trust me, these things happen, but because of the small form factor of the Sony 15, it's really worked out well for me. One of the other reasons I got this lens was because I wanted to test it out with some astrophotography, or for me, shooting the stars essentially. At nighttime, shooting the stars and getting some nice shots, time-lapse videos, and this lens does a great job. It does everything that you want because it's an f1.4, which I don't really shoot f.4, I shoot probably f1.8, but it gives you everything you want. It's wide enough to give you that landscape shot, but it's also sensitive enough to give you pretty good shots at nighttime with the stars. I mean, you're shooting with an APS-C camera. It would be better if you're on full frame, but with my setup, this 15mm gives you some good shots at nighttime. So let's take a look at some of the features on this lens. The first thing I absolutely love about this is that you can change your f-stop with the dial. I absolutely love that. You can use the click or you can declick it, whatever you want. I kind of like the click. that's fantastic. To be able to do that with a small little lens like this, I think that's great. And whether it's worth the extra money, I'm not too sure. Maybe if you add in all the other features to this, maybe that is worth the extra money. I also enjoy having a autofocus, manual focus switch. For me, it just makes the life a little bit easier. Switch it in, switch it out, and they don't have to worry about it. Otherwise, you have to go through the camera menu, or I have a button set on my camera, but it's an extra step that you have to go through, which I like. It also has a button if you want to program something, you can do that. The focus ring, it's pretty good. I enjoy a bigger focus ring, but you know, compared to other lenses like this, I think the focus ring is a pretty decent size. The Sigma has an absolutely beast of a focus ring, so it's nice and easy to focus. Actually, some people actually told me they didn't like that because there's a better chance of affecting the focus because it's so big. I haven't really noticed that. But this one's a decent size. I like it to be a little bit bigger, but for the most part, it's pretty good. So you do get a lot of features for your $950 Canadian funds for this lens. But for me, the big thing is being able to change your f-stop. I think that's amazing to be able to do that right on here. Some people, it's not a big deal, but for me, I like to be able to do that. I like to have control on a lens like this. And because it's so small and light, I think that's a nice touch with this lens. So let's talk about the fact that Sony did come out with these new prime lenses for the APS-C camera. One of the other lenses I want to get is the 11mm lens. It's a little bit wider. I think for myself filming stuff in the great outdoors, on the boats and that kind of stuff, it'll give me a different look, a little bit wider. And when I'm filming stuff with the stars, astrophotography, I think 11mm nice and wide like that, I think that's great. So that's probably the next lens I'm going to pick up after this one. But the point is that they did come out with new lenses for the APS-C camera. A lot of people thought that Sony was just giving up on the APS-C sensor. They were not going to make any new cameras or lenses for those cameras. And obviously that's not true. We have these new lenses, and we also have new cameras out there. One of the cameras I'm probably going to upgrade to soon is the Sony FX30. I think it's a great camera. I'm also considering the Sony the A6700, which would be an upgrade from this camera, obviously. And the features on that are amazing. So obviously Sony has not given up on the little sensor just yet. And for me, I'm pretty excited about it. One of the main reasons I went with the APS-C setup and the A6400 mainly was budget. That's what I could afford at the time, but it also gave me some great features. And I knew I was coming from Canon to Sony, so I had to upgrade all my lenses. And if you look at the prices of the full frame lenses, way more expensive than the prices of the APS-C lenses for Sony. Now, there's good reason for that. You have full frame versus a smaller sensor in the APS-C, but for me, I wanted to get some lenses and I was just getting into it, so I just decided I'm going to go APS-C and see what happens. I may upgrade the full frame in the future, and I may regret not buying full frames right now. But so far, I've bought quite a few lenses for the APS-C camera, which I'm very happy with. And I'm going to stick to that until I do upgrade. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will stay with the APS-C sensor, and I'll have all these lenses that I can use, and I can continue to upgrade as long as Sony continues to make new lenses for the APS-C cameras. If you watch my channel for a while, you know I'm a mostly video guy. I don't take a lot of photos, but I have taken photos with this lens, and they're very, very sharp. They look great. There is a little bit of vignetting on these lenses, I find, and there's a little bit of distortion, which you're gonna get from a 15mm lens, but it's very minimal, and it's very comparable to the Sigma 16. I would say the Sigma is a little bit better. You can kind of see the rounding on the edges, but it's very minimal. On photos, again, very, very minimal. And video, I do find it a little bit more, but not that bad. It's not something that I'm like, oh man, I can't use this lens. At this point, I don't even really notice the distortion of it. It's so small that, you know what, I just live with it. And most people, I think, would be happy with the fact that you have a 15mm lens like this, and it gives you just a little bit distortion. Almost every lens at a 15mm or something that wide will give you some kind of distortion. So I think the fact that it gives you a little bit, it's kind of understandable. It sucks that it's still there, but it's part of life. And there are ways around that, and it's not a big deal to me. So it's not something that I'd be like, oh no, I can't get this lens because of that, because the distortion is very minimal. So in this video, it's been a bit of a love fest for this Sony lens. I'm not going to apologize because I do like it, but to sum up, there are lots of things I do like about it, but there are some things that I wish they had changed. Now, the price is the biggest one for me. I'm not saying that it's overpriced at $950 Canadian. You do get a lot of good features on this lens, and there's not a lot of competition out there for this, so I understand the price point, but I think a little bit cheaper, maybe $100 cheaper, would be a little easier for most people to purchase this lens and justify paying that price tag. However, it has been selling pretty well, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about and people are happy paying that, but for me, $100 off or something like that, that would be great for this lens. Another thing that I don't love about this lens, but it all has to do with me, which is everything, of course, because it's my channel, my video. I don't love the fact that it's a 55 mil ring around here. Most of my lenses are 67, so when I have my variable ND lenses, they fit most of the time the 67. So the fact that this has a 55 one on it just means I have to make some adjustments there. Not a big deal, but for me, it's just one of those things. That's not Sony's fault. That's my fault, of course, and I'll have to live with that. So I talked about the fact that this is a nice, lightweight, small form factor lens, which is perfect for a gimbal, of course. I've used this on my gimbal, and you know what? It works perfectly. My gimbal can handle my camera and some lenses that are not overly heavy. This thing here, no problem. I can put it on and film all day. It's not heavy. It doesn't wear out the motor. It just does a great job. It's actually lighter than the Sigma, so that works out well. And sometimes I like shooting with a pretty wide lens on the gimbal, so it kind of gives you that unique look. Sometimes I actually like to use a zoom lens on the gimbal, so you get a little bit more depth of field and your shots look a little bit more interesting. But sometimes you just want something wide, and this definitely did the job. The fact that you can switch everything, your f-stop, your focus, everything easily on the camera, really made using the gimbal with this lens enjoyable, and I think it's a fantastic lens for anybody using a gimbal. So there you go, that's my video on the Sony 15mm f1.4 for your APS-C lens. I think it's a pretty decent lens. Let me know what you think of this lens. If you've had it, maybe you're thinking of purchasing it, let me know how it's been going for you. Also, I want to know what you guys think of the Sony 11mm lens. I mentioned earlier that it's one of the lenses I'm thinking of purchasing next. It's a nice wide lens, and I think I will use it a lot, but I was wondering about you guys. If you have the 11mm lens, is it something that you like? Is it meeting all your expectations, or you're not happy with the purchase? So far, online where I've talked to people, some people really love it. Other people think it's not the greatest lens, that's a little too wide, and you can get the same kind of look with a different kind of lens. I'm not sure. So let me know what you think of that lens, and let me know what you think of the 15mm lens. I'm really happy that Sony is continuing to produce lenses and cameras with the APS-C sensor. That's something makes me happy, and a lot of other people happy that have bought into this system and want to continue using this system before we upgrade. But I'm good for now. And I'm happy with this lens. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.